Okay, we will now begin questioning, and I'll recognize myself for 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, recent cyber attacks on the water sector have exposed concerning cybersecurity vulnerabilities. As Congress examines what occurred and the best steps to improve resilience to threats, I believe we must work collaboratively with the sector to accommodate the diversity of our nation's water systems. I believe that if there was one common theme throughout all of your speeches, it was collaboration, and we all recognize that is extremely important. Mr. Jeffries, I'll start with you. Can you please discuss the various cybersecurity challenges facing our rural water systems? And then I'm going to ask Mr. Dewhurst for his on the large systems.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I mentioned earlier, I look after 90 rural systems, and only one has any connection to the internet. These are still systems. They get in the truck in the morning, they ride out, they look, they see the water tank's half empty, they go turn the well on. They don't even have telemetry systems. That's probably 80% of your systems we're talking about. A lot of the telemetry systems radio read, so it's not connected to the internet. So as far as rural goes, when we're talking about the less than 3,300, and most of them are less than 1,000 when you get down and look at it, it's not as big a concern to us. I worry more about a physical attack where somebody dumps something on me than I do cybersecurity, not meaning that that's not true for Atlanta, Macon, Columbus, the bigger systems. But right. Rural, it's just not, we were talking earlier. When we do the vulnerability assessment, the 3,300 and more, a little system like I run, you probably could do a vulnerability assessment that's half a page of just a checklist. Are you looking at these things? So there's just a huge difference when you're trying to compare water systems.
Great. Thank you for that.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Dewhurst, building on what Mr. Jeffers said, can you contrast that with the cybersecurity challenges facing large systems?
Sure. So obviously we feel like we have I'm not saying a bigger target, but we have there's more impact if a bigger system is attacked and successfully implemented. So we benefit in Tacoma from having a power utility that's very cyber secure, given the NERC requirements that they have to face. So we have a number of cyber tools that we utilize at that level to detect. Really, the biggest thing we're doing with most of our cyber posture is endpoint detection. We're always checking to see who has talked to our system and for how long, and we're logging all those things. And we're verifying when things are not normal. For instance, last time I was in Washington, D.C. back in December, I logged into our network, and I got a chat about, within an hour that said, hey, we detected a login from Virginia. Is that you? Just to, again, verify that it was indeed me and it was not someone acting out elsewhere. We do vulnerability management, so we're scanning our systems on a regular basis. We scan daily and patch weekly. So this is a standard practice we use. We also have other tools that create like a protocol break between our systems, so that in essence, there's like an air gap between our system and what it looks like we're interacting with and what we're actually touching. Most of not all of our control systems are not on the internet, so they are network isolated. So there's ways to network isolate some of these things so that they're not really accessible to the outside world. And then I would just say that too, because of water and the difference between water and power, just to give you a little bit on that, we are a lot less interconnected than power is. Power generally with generators and also balancing authorities, they have a lot of communications going back and forth across. Water systems are a little bit different because we are kind of our own grid. We're not trying to manage a grid collectively. We have our own grids that's what a water system essentially is to ourselves. So I hope that addressed the question. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Our country's systems are incredibly diverse and face numerous challenges. We recognize that. I have concerns that a one-size-fits-all regulatory proposal from EPA to address cyber threats would not necessarily be the best way to accommodate these differing circumstances. Dr. Morley, you represent water systems of all sizes, and in your opinion, do you support a purely regulatory response to addressing cybersecurity?
Mr. Chairman, I believe this requires a combination of activities that are in part regulatory and non-regulatory, as I discussed before. We have outlined a possibility of what we believe is a reasonable regulatory approach that addresses that diversity and complexity of the operations. But as I said, and my colleagues have said, there are a number of opportunities that we can force multiply to empower utilities to take directed action on implementing this best practice.
So if it were purely a regulatory proposal, could it make it worse?
Well, that's a possibility. That's always a possibility.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you all.